Every day, people are celebrated for achieving their goals. So why would the Ghoul praise Maximus for ending up right where he started? I have known what video topic I wanted to do for a long time, and yet somehow I'm less prepared than normal. This video is without a doubt a sequel to the last video about The Surface is the Experiment, so if you haven't seen that yet, you might want to watch that first. So what we're going to talk about is Season 2, Episode 7, The Handoff. This is when Thaddeus and Maximus and the Ghoul find the NCR cache, and it's just such a great Fallout moment. Stumbling onto a convenient, untouched abundance of useful toys and weapons and power armor that's just sitting there waiting for you. So let's do the recapping the scene thing. Poor Thaddeus trying to bond with the Ghoul over Ghoul stuff, which, I mean, we know he's not a Ghoul, but he shows him that weird mutation and the Ghoul looks at him like, I've never seen that before in my life, which is the last reaction you want when you're trying to bond with someone over what you believe to be a shared vulnerability, and the embarrassment on Thaddeus's face, like the concern/embarrassment. I'm like, oh god, why are you giving me middle school flashbacks of realizing that nobody related to my autistic problems? You know, like when sound hurts. What are you talking about? Of course Maximus is like, okay, this is cool and all, but seriously, why are you helping us? And the Ghoul says, this isn't for free, this is a transaction, and I'm like, yeah, he knows that, speed it up, Ghoul man. And we find out the plan was, here, have all these fun toys to fight these Deathclaws, but I'm gonna want that diode. But Maximus thought he'd already made himself clear that the diode was gonna go to Lucy, a good person who, as far as he knows, does have connections to other good people who want good things to happen and want the world to be a good, better place. But the Ghoul reminds him of what we now all know, that the world is messy and complicated. If you want to help that good person, you're gonna have to give that little nugget to a person who's not so good. You're gonna have to, take a karma hit. Which at first kind of sounds like he's talking about himself, but then he starts talking about the big man, my man, the house that always wins. The only person that the Ghoul says he has ever seen come out on top in Vegas. He says if they want to be the good guys, they gotta do it like he did. Rig the game. And then he unveils the NCR power armor that was overpriced on the Atom Shop. And I gotta admit, power armor is pretty fucking bitchin'. I especially love the gauntlets, but moving on. Are you already starting to see why this is a sequel to the last video? I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about cheating at the game, right? I can't believe that whole video I never talked about the game being rigged from the start. There's so much more to talk about when it comes to conscientious cheating. We'll get to it. Let's finish the scene. So then I am completely convinced that Aaron Moten personally decided I'm gonna make Lindsay cry by taking her on this full emotional journey as he looks at this power armor. That face, oh my god! Because the NCR is what he believed in as a little kid. These were the soldiers that he saw marching through his city that protected his family and his people from the threats outside. Or so he thought. They are the symbol of safety that were taken from him that he has been trying to get back. And then he says the line that is today's center point.
You always end up back where you started, huh?
And he hands the diode to the Ghoul, who then responds,
Now you understand.
So we're talking about playing the game by rigging the game and going back to where you started. But when it comes to the themes that are the most important, not only in the Fallout TV show, but also in the franchise as a whole, it is very important that I clarify from the top, we are not advocating being stuck in the past. We're talking about returning to yourself, honoring the aspects of our past that shaped who we are in the present and are relevant in building who we will become in the future. In the Fallout universe, attempts at building civilization are always rising and falling. And individuals are the same way. We fall, we get back up. We fall, we get back up. But we don't give up. Backward steps are a part of the process. Goals are linear. Life is not. I mean, how could it be? We all know how it ends. I mean, aren't we all here because we love a video game? Nothing that you accomplish inside a video game, quote-unquote, matters outside of the video game, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. It's a journey. It's an experience. You just gotta learn to value the adventure. I like to think of it like a spiral staircase, okay? When you're going up a spiral staircase, you go a little bit forward and a little bit back. You go a little bit forward, you go a little bit back. But there's a general trajectory. It's going somewhere. You don't know where. And you don't want to know where, because spoilers. Learn to value the side quests. Because isn't all of life just a temporary side quest from being not alive? And all these attempts to build civilization at the macro and micro level are all about capturing that ever-elusive concept that we call home. Home is just as much about connecting to yourself as it's about connecting to any sort of external goal. You may have heard the expression, home is where the heart is.
Home is where the heart is, after all.
I love that expression, it's great. The idea is that home is about connection and love and family, not about any particular physical location. This is why in recent years the term houseless is getting a lot more popular as opposed to homeless, because that's really what we're talking about in that instance. We're talking about the physical material house, apartment, etc. But a lot of houseless people have more home, more community than a lot of us who pay rent, while a lot of us who are housed have never felt at home in our entire lives. The expression also reminds us that our hearts are our ruby slippers. They can take us home anytime. But this culture really doesn't want you thinking like that. Capitalist consumer culture relies on consistent, constant pursuit, dangling carrots. It takes love and home and connection away from you so that you will feed the engine in your constant pursuit of getting it back. This is what the Matrix was pointing to with the idea of us powering the machine. Advertising as an industry wants to tell you what you need. If you're not insecure about anything, if you don't feel like you're lacking something, scroll Instagram for a while. You'll find all sorts of things to lack. We didn't need these products. Our nervous systems just responded to somebody else's need for us to buy the products. Core principle, any movement or action is about tension and release. Homework assignment, tension, turning in that homework, release. Hungry, tension, eat food, release. Getting in a fight with a friend, tension. Apologies and hugs, release. Everything in physical reality that happens. All of it. There are no exceptions. You pull back a guitar string, tension, you release it, sound happens. A young flower is in a tight little bud, and as it blooms, it releases. Just like how our DNA is a tight coil of data that unfurls million bazillion processes expressing until eventually the tension that is life ends and we die. One day the sun will burn out because guess why? What happens in a good movie script? A buildup of tension and a release. And if you're thinking about sex at all, good job you're paying attention. Great quote from Cyberpunk 2077, there is not a single thing in reality that is not in the process of becoming something else. And that process is a releasing of tension. The human nervous system is supposed to have a series of tension and release, tension and release, tension and release. But we live in a culture that puts us in this state of constant tension with no release, with a promise of future hypothetical release if we go to work, pay our taxes, etc. We're supposed to pursue tension and release. Dopamine isn't about happiness or pleasure, it's about pursuit. It's about drive. So think of all the tensions that we pursue as quests, like in, say, a Fallout game. You pick up the quest, tension. You turn in the quest, release. The question is, are you choosing your quests, or are they being handed to you? And what agenda is the person who handed you that quest operating under? All of these quests that we accept, they become these tangles of tension that we then have to untangle. And then that becomes our lives, cleaning up messes, serving agendas that aren't ours. Our guitar strings were exposed, and so they plucked them. And we just played the songs that they wanted us to play. And going to Wasteland Jamboree at the beginning of this month made it so clear to me. Becoming ourselves and living our lives often means abandoning these quests. I went to Anime Expo when I was 15, and I knew that was what my life needs to be about. That was when I felt at home. More at home than I ever had in my actual home. Or, house. I was surrounded by people like me, like minds, like hearts. It wasn't the right fandom, but it was the environment. But my family, the closest influences in my life, were constantly telling me what a waste of time this was. They weren't paying me, there was no career in it, there was no future, there was no 401k, there was no retirement. Plus it was nerdy and uncool, and the kind of people that I should be impressing would think it was cringe. And here I am, nearly 40 years old, and the tent poles of my life are Fallout conventions. If you want to stay in alignment with reality, you have to unlearn bullshit.
Funky Deathclaw reminding you to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe!
Here's a perfect example of unlearning from the Fallout TV show. Lucy, as an adult, remembers feeling the sun She has these memories with her mother. She remembers the sun, she felt the sun, she believed it was the sun. But then her father, Hank, told her, nope, that wasn't the sun, that was just the projector from the farm in the vault, you've never felt the sun. So she made sense of that memory by telling herself it was her mother, it was her mother's love, it was her mother's smile that made the sun feel so real. And then boom, season finale, she finds out the truth. It wasn't the projector in the farm. She knows what the projector in the farm feels like. This was a different feeling. Her senses and her perceptions didn't fail her. Her father did. She trusted her dad more than she trusted her memory. That is gaslighting. That is abusive. It made her more dependent on his report of what reality was. That revelation not only recontextualized her understanding of her memories, but it recontextualized her understanding of her father and the things he taught her and the reality that he presented to her. If he lied about that, what else did he lie about? What set of values was he protecting? And can she really sign off on the teachings of a person who has now clearly demonstrated that he has an agenda that he holds higher than being honest with her? If you have dignity and self-respect, it's degrading to sign off on somebody treating you like that. And if the reality that somebody presents to you conflicts to all reality outside of it, you have to choose one or the other or you'll go insane. Are you gonna operate and function and make decisions according to the reality that's in this bubble? Or are you gonna function and make decisions according to the reality everywhere outside of that bubble? Imagine for a moment, what if she refused to accept what she had learned? Her heart, her nervous system was just far too dependent on the core premise that her father Hank could be trusted. That's basically like climbing the spiral staircase and being so afraid of taking a step backwards that you just don't step at all. Because continuing up the staircase means you have to step back. Y'all, that's what a lot of people do. They just freeze. They just stop expanding. Sunk cost fallacy. I was going this way this whole time and I'm just gonna park it. Why? To protect the people who lied to you? Going to Hollywood, my videography business, getting my master's degree, neurodivergent personal development, trying to start a nonprofit, all of these things were distracting side quests. I was in the wasteland getting sidetracked by bullshit. I knew who I was when I was 15. I ended up right back where I started. And the saddest thing is it's not like I didn't know. I remember talking about it a lot, that Anime Expo was the happiest I ever was. I ended up working for Anime Expo for 10 years, and I didn't even like anime that much. I mean, I like a lot of anime, but we can talk about anime in the stream sometime. I had the answer all along. I had my ruby slippers the whole time. I just didn't trust myself. I thought embracing my truth was somehow cheating at their game. Now, what famous story is all about going on some convoluted, distracting adventure, looking for that magical one who's gonna solve all your problems, only to realize that you had the power to save yourself all along? The Wizard of Oz. We talked about the ruby slippers in the last video, and how humiliating it is to realize that you've been wasting your time chasing your own tail, but how important it is to do it, because realizing that you've been wasting a lot of time is not a good reason to continue wasting time. Yeah, I've done a lot of pointless shit, but look how wise it's made me. And I'm glad I'm coming back to the topic of the Wizard of Oz, because boy howdy, is Fallout full of Wizard of Oz references.
Now, it ain't my fault that Dorothy and the Tin Man happen to be on the same yellow-striped road, is it?
I don't have citations handy, but I'm pretty damn sure that Mr. House was strongly inspired by the Wizard of Oz. Like, not just the story, but like literally the wizard. This is a guy who maintains power over this fantasy world through projection and technological illusion, even though he's really just a sad, lonely, frail little thing in a tube. How dare you talk about Mr. House that way? Hey, everyone knows that I love Mr. House. But that man was not hugged enough as a child. And the strip is like this magical, Oz-like wonderland. Artificial, seductive, distracting. And the game is peppered with little lines of dialogue to redirect your attention to this Wizard of Oz allegory.
Feeling like I'm walking down a yellow brick road and there's bad news at the end.
And oh man, that's even before we even get to Old World Blues. This is the Fallout New Vegas DLC, where you get kidnapped by a bunch of robot scientists, you get dragged into a weird retro sci-fi lab full of experiments gone wrong. It's fucking fantastic. It explores identity and memory and nostalgia, how clinging to the past can turn really smart people into delusional wrecks. Y'all, the quests literally involve looking for your brain, looking for a heart, looking for a spine.
You have a new spine. Use it.
And while it's not exactly that you had those things all along, it does suggest that you weren't looking for them until they were taken from you. But I can tell you one thing I didn't know I needed until playing Old World Blues, and that is Robo-Scorpions. Atlas, where are my Robo-Scorpions? Someday, we will have Robo-Scorpions. I don't know how, but we at Atlas Omnicorp believe in our dreams. My last video was all about the importance of growth and expansion, and not getting stuck. And the think tank in Old World Blues, as brilliant as they are trapped by misguided nostalgia and the self-delusion they developed in maintaining it. In the Fallout universe, the term Old World Blues refers to being so obsessed with the past, you can't see the present.
There is an expression in the wasteland, Old World Blues.
It refers to those so obsessed with the past they can't see the present, much less the future, for what it is.
They stare into the what was, eyes like pilot lights, guttering and spent, as the realities of their world continue on around them.
Which is why the one thing that really should be considered cringe in Fallout fandom are the fans that are obsessed with their attachment to the past iterations, while also claiming that they understand the franchise better than everyone else. It shouldn't make us angry, it should make us feel very, very bad for these people.
You heard of the Sierra Madre Casino. It's still out there, but getting to it, that's not the hard part.
It's letting go. The old man, he has the need to hold on to the past, to the Madre. I'd rather be free, let go of this shell, than have it cage me any longer.
There's a lesson here, in the Divide. Old world history about holding on to something so tightly it breaks or falls apart.
You could have just left, but you were too obsessed to let go.
Could have breathed new life into the Mojave. Chance for a new mission, new beginning, new way of thinking. But everything in Vegas speaks of someone who can't let go.
When you're part of something for that long, maybe it's impossible to let go without losing part of yourself.
Out in the world, beyond these walls, that is your chance to begin again.
Begin again, but know when to let go.
It must take an exhausting amount of neural energy to maintain that level of cognitive dissonance. The last thing that Fallout wants is for us to be stuck in the past, and if some of these people are this angry, if they cared about that original messaging so much, then maybe they should take it to heart and move on to something else. It's a big world. There are other franchises. Vera's not into you, bro. Let it go. Well, let's go back to talking about how Mr. House and the Wizard are both manipulators, cheaters of the game. So in The Wizard of Oz, the Wizard was a carny, a flim-flam artist, a performer. He ends up in Oz because he was trying to escape consequences for his bullshit. But the people of Oz have no reference point for his bullshit. They don't understand modern tech, they don't understand stage illusion. His balloon comes down and they're like, holy shit. Like we talked about in the last video, he's one of the sunglasses people. He has more awareness. And because of what he does, he's learned to survive, he's learned how to function by hoodwinking people. And these are the most vulnerable, unprepared marks that he has ever encountered. In the last video, I talked about having more awareness can make you feel kind of evil, but like I said, it's not evil unless you use that difference in awareness to manipulate, which is exactly what the Wizard of Oz did. And it's exactly what Mr. House did. Frankly, it's what a lot of people do. The tricky business is how do you use that awareness to survive, to function, hopefully even to serve, when being just honest and direct isn't an option because the people around you won't understand what you're saying. And even if they do, maybe they don't have enough power or privilege in their social construct to apply that information in any meaningful way. The example I used is using console commands to cheat at Fallout. If you're cheating in an online game where you're competing with other people, it's immoral. But the context in which I use console commands, the way I said it, I'm playing a different game. And if you go all the way back to a video I did a long time ago, how do you define what you have the right to do? A lot of our ideas about cheating are related to our ideas about being a good person. Obedience. You're a good kid if you follow the rules that authority expects you to follow. I encouraged us all to think differently, focus on the impact of our actions, whether or not we are comfortable being responsible for the outcome, the consequences, the fallout. Yes, I got sunglasses just for that gag, and the journey of learning to use your awareness and your capacity for flim-flam and cheating in a manner that is aligned with goodness and love just so happens to be the plot of my favorite fucking movie, The Greatest Showman. Yes, I get to combine my love for The Greatest Showman with Fallout fandom once again, just like I got to at the pre-party for Fallout Fan Celebration 2025! This is the greatest show! Shout out to Corey J. Phillips for being a part of that moment. Y'all, I don't know jack shit about the real guy of P.T. Barnum, but I do know that all of the secrets of life are in The Greatest Showman. If I had kids, they would be so sick of how many times I made them watch this movie. Y'all don't need Jesus, you need circus. I could fill an 18-episode series with all of the wisdom in this movie, and I have. So be super impressed that I am boiling this down to the most relevant beats. At the start, Finn believes he has to earn love by putting himself above other people. Love is unimpressed, so he goes on an extended journey with the ego despite it directly telling him it would never be enough. He is unconscious. Until he learns his lesson, humbles himself in the face of the very people that he once only felt safe if he could exploit and control them, and wakes up. No longer aligned with ego, now aligned with love itself. And now instead of repeatedly listening to the lyric never enough, never enough, never enough, what lyric repeats during the song that signifies his waking up? And we will come back home. We will come back home. He is no longer on a stage. He is no longer on a pedestal. He still has power and privilege that these people don't have within the construct that they are all living in. But he no longer buys into it in his heart. He no longer treats these people like he thinks he's more important. And their transition from the building that burns down to the tent signifies the houselessness versus homelessness idea that I talked about earlier. And in the last video, I talked about how there are pockets of truth in the construction. In The Greatest Showman, they built a pocket of truth in the construction. My 18-episode series is no longer online for a bunch of reasons, but I'm gonna explode if I don't get that out of me. I have no idea when or how. It might have to happen live. We might have to do a live stream where I teach the gospel of The Greatest Showman. If anybody's interested in that, let me know. Another beautiful thing about The Greatest Showman is it's a movie that you can understand just fine when you're a little kid, but that you understand in a new way when you get older. A while back, I got a comment from a Fallout TV show hater saying that I'm wasting time diving this deeply into the show because an 8-year-old could understand it. And I'm reading that thinking, way to admit to the entire internet that you're only able to comprehend it like an 8-year-old. A great story can be understood at 8 and at 80, and the vast majority of us would greatly benefit from returning to the understandings that we had as children, to restore what was taken from us. Yes, a life well lived is about continuous expansion, continuous learning, but just about as much is about unlearning, clearing the cache, healing our wounds, returning to ourselves. Life is full of side quests. Thou shalt get sidetracked by bullshit every single time. When Finn ran off with the opera singer, he was getting sidetracked by bullshit, and let's face it, that is the most boring section of the movie, is it not? There's a reason for that. It is so easy to get seduced by the sunk cost fallacy in a culture that values goals more than journeys. If you only think things are worth doing because of the pursuit of goals, then all of this is pointless, so we distract ourselves from the pointlessness of it all. We use busy work and substances and food to numb ourselves. We soothe our egos by saying we're putting ourselves through this misery for other people who are also miserable and telling themselves that they're doing things for other people. Who are we doing it all for? Who gets to be happy? Who gets to live while we sleep? And if you don't like spiritual thinking and you want me to be super pragmatic, that's easy. You know Occam's razor, right? Prefer the explanation that makes the fewest assumptions. The meaning of life is to be alive. What's the point of sacrificing your life for future generations if those future generations are going to sacrifice their life for future generations? Who gets to live? And living, being alive, is not just having a pulse. If we really believed that, then we wouldn't consider it a mercy to withdraw life support when someone's in a coma. And that's what we're doing when we're not choosing life. We're asleep. We're in a coma. That's not being alive. So what is alive? Once again, Occam's razor, to be what you are, to return to yourself, to come back home again. This fucking twisted culture that we're living in has us convinced that it is spoiled, that it is entitled to honor your basic need to be you. That is crazy. I am as gay as a cat is a carnivore. As a firefly needs to glow. Self-expression is not a luxury, it is a basic requirement of being. It is your only job that is given to you by nature to be what you are. So what the hell is being you? Step 1 is look deeper into what you love, not away from what you fear. Love is the only way out, y'all. That's what you are, that's where you started. And believe it or not, you might find that you're loving yourself the most, that you're taking the most transformative step forward you could possibly take by wiping the slate clean, purging yourself of other people's rules, and just starting over. Let go and begin again.
Now you understand.
Community section for the Feral Cools. This is gonna be such a hard edit. I had such a hard time deciding the order in which to present certain ideas. I just didn't really have a tight outline. So, we got what we got. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's talk about it at the Saturday stream. Hopefully this time I won't be sick. That would be this Saturday, May 16th. Once again, I will not have time to prepare icebreaker questions or anything like that. We're just gonna hang out and chat. So on that note, I'll see y'all Saturday. Stay cool, Ferals.